I'm calling together the board meeting of the Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation. It is Thursday, September 29, 2016. We are at Kapolei Hale, and it is about 9:05 a.m. Let us first begin with public testimony on all agenda items. John Bond.
Good morning, aloha,
Aloha.
Chair Hanabusa and members of the board. I'm here today to sort of harp on things that I've brought up before in past testimony, but it's interesting that in the news today it says that scientists say world likely won't avoid dangerous warming mark. Global temperatures will hit dangerous warming levels in about 35 years. But of course, this is already happening, and we're seeing massive storms coming by all the time, and they're going to get more of them and bigger all the time. So HART Rail is building planned stations and TODs in what is identified as tsunami evacuation zones. And they had already been identified as such in 2010 before any HART rail construction was started. So they can't say that they didn't know about this or it wasn't documented, because it was. It's on the city website. Those tsunami zones have since been greatly expanded inland. So the point of this is that when the big disaster hits, whether it's a tsunami or a hurricane storm surge, it's going to take out the incredibly vulnerable wastewater treatment plant of Sand Island. So nobody's going to be able to flush their toilets downtown for a long time. And so that should be priority number one, is to move that to a safe location. It's just a massively vulnerable disaster. 2013 was a huge one in the Philippines, killed 6,000 people. The city that got hit is just like Honolulu. Honolulu is just an incredibly wide open South Shore, a hurricane storm surge disaster ready to happen. It's just, there's no protection for it. All these hurricanes that come by don't even have to hit Honolulu. All they have to do is push storm surge inland 30, 40 feet. You have the effect of a tsunami going on for 12, 15 hours. So you're going to lose tons of infrastructure. Everybody that's building in downtown is going to lose a lot of infrastructure. Okay, so at the recent World Conservation Congress, Dr. Chip Fletcher, who's an expert on sea level rise and all these subjects, has already said it's too late already. They said, you know, the idea of stopping this or somehow they're going to do something, everybody's going to turn off their lights and refrigerators and it's going to not happen. It's baloney. Everyone's agreed this is coming. You know, get serious about this. And that's what he's been saying for a long time. So he's saying now that his previous estimate was about 3 feet. He says it's going to be at least 5 feet. And he's still very conservative on sea level rise. So you're going to see rapid sea level rise. You're going to lose all your infrastructure along the coast. Everything you're talking about building now is going to be a waste of money. You're going to lose it all. And we brought up before in testimony that the Federal Emergency Management Administration, the National Flood Insurance Program, Title 44, Executive Orders 11-988 and 13-690 have all said that any project should identified in flood zones or these disaster areas should not be built in those areas. So you're going against everything, all the federal directives and presidential directives to continue doing this. EIS was fraudulently done on many things, farmland conversion rating. That was a big fraud. The studies were done, people consulted, and to get rail to go through just for a guideway was sort of okay, but they just basically used that as a mechanism to say that none of the land at Ho'opili was valuable farmland. And every study by the state and everyone else has all proven that's totally false. So the Pueo survey was falsified. So as we go down the list here, the number of fraud is just too much to even talk about here. I've got lots of documentation, but so it's a waste of time what you're going to be doing here. Pretend like you're going to take this rail through either Dillingham Boulevard, or even if you go down Nimitz, you're going to have to do a new SEIS. It's going to trigger all kinds of things. My personal suggestion is you really should just stop this thing at Aloha Stadium. That is your best bet. That's the place that you could network buses onto different locations and to over to the windward side and everything. That would be the logical place to stop this thing. And save people billions and billions of dollars, because it's just a fake going downtown. You're going to encounter so much worse stuff than what you're even talking about here with Kiewit and all the shim problems and pads and everything and corrosion. It's going to be 10 times worse than that. But so I'm going to leave you with a happy note. So my happy note for you is that years ago, Dr. Panos Pravaderos had a concept for getting cars downtown very inexpensively. And I sort of took that idea and made a proposal back in 2011, January 2011. It's the Eva Kapolei Commuter Traffic Alternative, Pearl Harbor Channel Vanpool Express Bus Ferry. I'm going to give this to you folks. I don't know if anybody will even want to read it, but the fact is, for an incredibly low amount of money, you could have a lot of cars going across Pearl Harbor. The Navy would not be against it because it would be all run by Navy contractors that park all the aircraft carriers and destroyers. This is an incredibly well-vetted plan. It would use the same type of ferries that Washington State uses. If you've ever been up there, they run an incredibly efficient ferry system. They run through Navy bases. I mean, all the things. In fact, this plan was so good, I was called up by Wayne Yoshioka at the time, head of DTS, and told to shut up. And he actually called me at my home and said, stop talking about this, because it was a threat to the rail project. And I was a pro-rail guy at that time. I thought, wait, aren't we talking about getting people off the highway and saving money and time? And no, they aren't interested in that. They're interested only in spending endless amounts of money on a big fraud. So with that, I'll just end that, but I'll pass this along to you and say there is an alternative, and it could be done in a short amount of time, and you could get a lot of cars off the freeway, and it would work for all the military workers at Pearl Harbor and Hickam, and even Tripler and everything could use this. I've talked to military people off the record, and they all really like this idea, but it was politically squashed. So, Ms. Hanabusa, would you go back to Congress? Will you please look at doing this? Because it's a really good idea. And I think that could be one of your star things you could do for everybody out here.
Thank you, Mr. Bond.
So thank you very much.
Members, any questions of Mr. Bond? Yes, Mr. Hall.
Thank you very much for coming. A lot of valuable time coming and driving all the way out here. I respect your professional opinion and your research, because I kind of believe some of the things you're saying is the truth. I've been a first responder. I also lived in the area near the airport, in fact, right where the terminal was. My grandmother's house was right on Airport Road. And in 1946, when they had that tidal wave, we had to evacuate. And the only method of evacuation was on the old ORNL railway that had a trestle over that middle street stream there. And that was the only way we got out of Damon Track, was via the railroad. My question is, an elevated railway, would that still be susceptible to a tsunami?
Well, we have to realize that, sir, that people have to get to the railway. And so bottom line is they have to arrive and park somewhere, either on a level or sub-level area. So all that's going to be flooded. So the rail guideway will still be there as the big waves come through, but all your infrastructure, your power systems, and electrical boxes, sewage, everything is going to be destroyed. So you'll have a totally useless railway that won't be used by anybody because all your infrastructure beneath it is gone. Just a bunch of concrete pylons there. And in fact, it'll probably, and the worst thing is it's not even usable as an emergency evacuation. The thing that works in emergencies are buses, because you can take buses and drive straight up to the mountains. Everybody get on board and head for the hills. That's the way it would work. You can't do that with rail. Everyone's going to have to evacuate all the stations and get out of there. And you're going to lose all the sub-infrastructure below, at level or below ground. So it's a huge waste of money to do that, you know. So that would be my answer to that. It's just logical that you're going to lose all of that.
So the guideway would be secure, but the infrastructure wouldn't.
The guideway would probably not be gone, but by the time you lose all your infrastructure, it'll be useless. It won't be running. You're going to lose all your electricity that powers it. All those power stations are going to be gone. And then you have to rebuild everything. So are people going to be riding the train to a big disaster? You know, think about the consequences of what a disaster is going to bring. It's going to cause massive rebuilding of infrastructure. Really, all your money should be now starting to spend on sea level rise mitigation and moving everything, the wastewater treatment plant away from the vulnerable Sand Island area. So many things that should be done now. That's what Dr. Chip Fletcher is saying. He said, come on, folks, get serious about this. It's coming. It's going to be big. It's going to be the biggest disaster anyone's ever seen. So why are we spending all this billions on a big disaster when we should be spending on already preparing for what's coming? These are top scientists. They're not making it up, you know. So I think that should be your responsibility. In the meantime, if you did this Pearl Harbor crossing idea, that will work with whatever sea level rise happens for the next 50, 100 years. The Navy's going to have to deal with their own issues about that, but that's something that will just be ongoing because they're boats, they float. So as it goes up, the ferries will ride until eventually whatever happens, happens, but that's an inexpensive infrastructure that you won't lose in a disaster. So.
Madam Chair, my recommendation would be, during the period that we were there, that old railway was just our only evacuation out of Damon Track. And also the military and the military defense workers, civilian defense workers, by the thousands that were living in those CHA homes, military contractor homes down there for contracting work. The only escape out of there was on the old railway. And I think we should address the infrastructure problem that he's brought up. I think that's a great idea.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Bond.
Okay, thank you very much, and aloha.
Aloha very much.